So then when I began to look at faith, I had to go around and what Hebrews said. Hebrews said what? Faith is the thing hope for, but not for. Evidence is the thing not seen. Faith. So this lesson is about faith. So what happened? If it's about faith and we believe in faith, we ought to have a good lesson because it's the evidence of things what? Not seen. So what is that? What did you see this morning? I see you. You sitting on that bench. What is that? That's faith because what you do. You see it, don't you? Don't you see that bench? But it says faith is the evidence of things what? Not seen. So what we got right here, we have a little faith. Let's have just a little more faith in Jesus. I had faith this morning that he was going to wake me up. When I went to bed last night, did you have that faith? Did you have that faith that when you went to bed last night, you wasn't going to wake up? How many have this faith? Every time you go to bed, you expect to do what the next day? Wake up. So what does that tell me? That you got faith in who? You got faith in God that he's going to wake you up this morning. I didn't go to bed expecting not to wake up this morning. I went to bed expecting to wake up this morning. And I know a little faith because when you ate this morning, that was a little faith right there because you had something to eat this morning. Who did that? God did it. You had faith. If you live tomorrow, you got faith that you're going to your job. So what is about? This lesson is about faith. Now, if we look at this faith lesson, it's something that I like about this lesson here when I look at it. When I begin to look at that lesson and look at three kinds of faith. First, we had a crisis faith. Then we had a convinced faith. Then we had a commitment faith. Now, what was the crisis faith? What was that? What kind of faith is that crisis faith that this guy had? You need some wine? His son. I'm talking about his son. His son. What was that? His son was dying. That's a crisis. All right? Then he had a convincing faith. What did he try to do in the convincing faith? Persuade Jesus to go there. Look what there. The crisis, his son died. Convincing faith. He tried to persuade Jesus to go there. Then he had a commitment. Now, what was that commitment faith? Believe, and not only that, they always talk about us, but what was that man's faith? Commitment faith that after he got saved, who else did that man save? His whole household. The man's whole household got faith. Who did it? God did it. Who he did it to? That man. What happened there? That man. God had that faith in there. So he had that convincing faith. He had all those three faiths in them, and he had it no matter God. Now let's think about that. This lesson today gonna let us know that something about God and something about Jesus. Let me see. And you think about God, in the beginning of the word, it said God, what did he do? He spoke it, and what happened? The word became as it is. All he had to do was what? Speak. Now, today in this lesson, what are we going to find out about Jesus? All he had to do was what? Speak. So what did that tell me? The Father and the Son all is, look at this trace, one, because they both, all they had to do was just speak. You know, we said last week, if I had that power to speak something, you know, I'd be a bad man. Because if you didn't like me, what would I speak? I speak death when you right there. When you do it too, tell the truth. Somebody you didn't like, and you had that power, Miss Tracy said she wouldn't. Well, Miss Tracy, I don't know, I probably would. If I didn't like that person, but then if I planned to go to heaven now, you couldn't do it. But if I wasn't planning on going to heaven, I would go ahead and speak that word. You look at me and I didn't like you, dead. When you Dickens said, I'm so glad I'm not like that. Because I'll be speaking word on somebody. Somebody mess me, I walk around and speak word. But I'm glad. But I'm glad that I'm not God. And I'm glad I don't have that power. Because as humans, think about a human. Sometimes we have our fault. And that's probably one of my faults, because I'll be speaking that word on some people. He said, that's why God, I didn't get it because God knew I was going to do that. You make me mad, I'm going to come back at you. That's what it's saying. But I'm glad that God was God and Jesus was Jesus. Knowing that the power of man would have what we would do. But this lesson, as we begin to get into this lesson today, and we see what we talk about here, as John continued picking up where he left off. This whole month was about John. And what John is telling us is that in the beginning was the Word. So John tells us that before anything was created, the Word was right there with him. The Word had manifested into flesh, but the Word was right there from the beginning. That Word became Jesus. So if we look at that first topic this morning, we see the first thing said, a desperate hope. When you think about that word, desperate, what does that mean? When you say desperate, what does that word seem like? When you say something is desperate, what is it? It's bad. When you say desperate, that's the last. Desperate hope. There's nothing left. When you desperate, you done got down to your last penny. I'm desperate to do something. But this thing here says desperate with the word hope. Now, why do we get that hope? Hope comes from where? From God. So you have, today you got what? Desperate hope. And look at that desperate hope. So as I began to ponder myself and think about what it said, desperate hope. And since hope would be that, desperate hope would be that last result. The first thing I went back, I thought about old Abraham. What had happened to Abraham and Sarah? They had grown old. Nothing left. Jesus said, desperate hope. Desperate hope. Look at Miss Trace laughing on that. Desperate hope there. That's the last result. What was the last result? When God told them that they were going to have a child. Hope. And I thought about Aaron. You know, when Moses went up to the mountain, what happened to them people? What did they want him to do? Oh, Aaron. They decided they want him to build him with what? Build him with God. Why? They was in desperate hope because they got out here scared. So now the last result was, we need some kind of savior. What was the savior? They gonna get them okay. You know, when people get desperate, they do anything. But what bothers me, when they build the calf, they gonna worship what they build. Do that ever bother you? I think that ever bothers me about that. They build a calf, and then they gonna worship that calf. Can't hear, can't see, can't talk. But then we think about it, we do the same thing. We worship stuff that can't hear, can't see, can't talk. Other gods, that's what they do. So I said, look at here. But when you get in desperate now, I personally think, when a man really get in desperate need, and his family is on the verge of leaving, dying, there's a big bank over there, what comes to that man out of the robbery. So what that man is? Desperate hope that he can do that there. Think about it. So we put people down, but look, when you get in that situation, have you ever been in a desperate situation that you didn't know where to go? But then again, if you think about where to go, what do you go to? God. We go to God when you get in the desperate. What's that mean? The woman, going back to the issue of blood, she went everywhere. She exhausted all that she had. But here comes the last result. Who was the last result? God. Now, come on, Miss Tracy.
The young man, he had just gotten out of prison about 2 months ago. He said, I forgot to do something strange. He said, you know what I mean? And he said, then he got the phone call, so they can send him some money, so he can't get money. I said, see, when you get ready to do something strange, God knows what you're going to do. So he went to do something else. He said, well, I'm not ashamed of that. And that's right.
What was the man? Desperate. When you get desperate for something, you're going to try whatever it takes. Don't say you wouldn't go. One reason said because you've never been there. Wait till you get a point that you have nowhere to go. When Satan gets fooled with your mind, what's the next thing going to come up? What you can do, and that's the desperate hope. But here, when you get the last result, and you got the desperate hope, that's when you need to turn to God, because he already knows. He just see how far would you go. But when you realize that God can solve the problem, before the problem is fixed, God already got it solved before you stop. But you got to realize that. And then I went to Saul. You remember Saul, the first king? They was in desperate hope. What did they want? They wanted a king. And they had told him, if you get this king, look what's going to happen. But they didn't care, because the people over there, they had their king. So they wanted a king. What is that? Another desperate. And then what they hope this king gonna turn things around for them. So you begin to look at how people do when they get desperate. And don't say that what you won't do. All you can say that God hope don't allow you to do this here. Because we always put people down on something, but just like you said, that guy had got his last. So he wouldn't do anything. That man was my desperate man. And we begin to look at this, what we got today. Rita, what does it tell us, 46, about desperate hope?
So Jesus came again into Cana of Galilee, where he made the water wine. And there was a certain nobleman whose son was sick at Capernaum.
Look what it says. Jesus came again. So what did that tell us? That Jesus had already been there once before. Now, when Jesus was there once before, it says 3 days later that Jesus was invited to a party. If you believe, Jesus invited to a party. Not only was Jesus invited to a party, what is it? His mother was there with him, and his disciples were there. So Jesus had some people with him there. But what the thing happened, the party got so good that they ran out of wine. And then you know what happened. Mary went to her son and asked him, will he do that? Went to Jesus. So what happened there? That was his first miracle that he pulled in Galilee. He turned water into wine. Look what that old king said. Why we gonna say this was best for last, huh? Look at that. That was some good wine that way. Who did that? Jesus did it. That was his first miracle right there in Cana. Now he said he had been there. So look at this nobleman here. Jesus had did all these things, and this man had heard about Jesus. Now what the next one tells us, Rita?
When he heard that Jesus was come out of Judea into Galilee, he went unto him and besought him that he would come down and heal his son, for he was at the point of death.
Now, what is that? This man had heard about Jesus. Now, you think they didn't have no email, they didn't have no telephone, they didn't have no, what's that little, why they used to do on the phone? Beeper. And they didn't have a little Paul Revere ride with a horse. They didn't have nothing like that. Telegram, there you go. They didn't have nothing like that, but what? He had heard. He heard about Jesus. Think that's how they had no communication, and this man heard about Jesus. Now, since he heard about Jesus, he wanted to go find Jesus because that was the reason. What was the first crisis we said before? The man's son was dying. This was a known. When you read about this man, we say he was a man that's real high. He wasn't just an old man. This was a man that's real high. Now, this man being real high, he heard about the thing that Jesus had done. 20 miles away, he heard about Jesus. Here we are, just right down the corner. And it seems like some people have never heard about it. Have you noticed that? And this man was 20 miles away, and he heard about the thing that Jesus done. So what he want to do? His son was dying. He needs to get to Jesus. Now, let's see. My son died. Jesus is 20 miles away. I want to leave, but I'm scared if I leave, my son gonna die. So what kind of situation this man in? A desperate situation. A desperate. If I leave, he may die. I gotta go 20 miles to get this man. So what am I gonna do? Well, I need to get to Jesus. What he needs to do is get to Jesus. So that kind of put a little thought in the man's mind right there. I heard what Jesus had done. Look at the things he had done to this point. And this man here said, I know I need to get to that man because he can do it for my son. Read him. What the next one tells us?
Then said Jesus unto him, except ye see signs and wonders, ye will not believe.
Now here's one right here. This one is it. What did Jesus tell the folks? I'll tell you. Unless you see a sign. You know some people get up, they light on the sign. Let me get up and read my horoscope and see what it says this morning. Have you noticed people do that? Before I get ready to go somewhere, let me read, see what my signs say. And what did Jesus say? I know I can do it, but what you want to do? You want me to show you a sign. What was the sign? Okay, the first one, here, he took water and turned it into wine. What was that? They saw water and they saw wine. So what was that? That was the sign. So let me say, you want me to show you something. And then I thought about, that's true. Everything they want Jesus to show a sign. So if you go all the way back to Israel, when Moses got down to the Red Sea, what happened? He showed them a sign. So who are we talking about? We're talking about the same people. They want to see a sign. That's what Jesus told them. I know. You all want me to show you all a sign. Everything that you've done, you want me to show you a sign. But here, I'm not going to show you a sign. He's not going to show you a sign. What he's telling him, it's not about a sign. It's about one word that come up. That deacon already jumped up. It's about the word faith. But what you want me to do, you want me to show you a sign about it. I'm not going to show you no sign. I want you to believe in me. Look what Jesus telling them. And it's kind of funny how things happen like that, ain't it? They don't believe nothing unless they see a sign. I'm not going to work tomorrow, but my heart is going to say, I'm going to have a rain. It's messed up. What am I looking for? A ring. Because what? That's my sign. And you would have one because you like to get careless. My heart is going to say, what is it about Friday the 13th? I know all this about Friday the 13th. I'm not going anywhere because of what? Friday the 13th. And you know what I wonder about that? Jason did 5 times. Never got killed like that. Never saw that. He just kept on living. So I'm wondering about that kind of stuff like that. Yeah. But what we want a sign. Show me a sign. The sign. We live on sign. Jesus said, I am the sign. I came down for your sign. How do you know? 42 generations, he came down to be the sign for you. But what if you still want to see a sign? That's what he's telling right here. And read it, with all that sign, what's the next thing he tells?
The nobleman said unto him, Sir, come down ere my child die.
Oh, right here. I hear you. That's what he told him. Come on. Come on, Jesus. My child is dying. So what tell me? He have already made the trip. Now he wants Jesus to what? To go back with him. What he's saying, Jesus, you got to go. I want to see you bring my son. And what they said, when they read that thing, they said, other people said they was going to go with him. Why was they going to go? They want to see what Jesus could do. What they want to see? They want to see the sign. They want to see the sign. But Jesus said, I'm not going to show you no sign. And the next, I think he explained to them why he's not going to show them a sign. Because that's all they were living by, a sign. Through Israel. All through Israel, they wanted a sign. Everything happened. If you remember, when they left the wilderness, during the daytime, what kind of sign did they have? He led them with what? What did God let them out during the daytime? They had a sign when he led them through the wilderness. He led them to cloud. In the nighttime, they had a sign. What did he let them do? Fire. He led them fire. So what did they have? They had a sign. They had a sign. Both times, they had a sign. Who are we talking about? Some of the same people. Generation after generation. They was led by a sign. So here what Jesus telling you, all your generation, you've been led by a sign. Now, how would Jesus know that? Because he was great and he was what? He was there. He was there. He hadn't made it in the flesh, but he was there in the what? In the word. In the spirit, he was already there. So that's how he knows that from generation to generation, you've been led by sign. But here it is now. I'm going to change that thing. I don't want you to lead by a sign. I want you to take my word. Take my word. That's all you got to live by, the word. So what we do, we don't have a sign. What do we live by here? We live by the word. What is the word? That Bible. We live by what that Bible said as Christians. Remember now, I have to use that word Christian. Because everybody is not a child of God. You have to do the thing to be a child of God. So when you live by that word and do what God says, you don't need a sign. The only sign you need to do is just read the word. Because where is that? It's in the word. Everything you need to know where is located. In the word. Whatever you're going through, all you need to do is just what? Read the word. Now, who is the word? Jesus was the word. Then the word became what? Flesh. So all I need to know is just study the word. Now, if we look at that part, that's what it says that, and look what it tells on that part, Jesus, and look what it tells on the next one. Reader, what it tells us?
Jesus said unto him, Go thy way, thy son liveth. And the man believed the word that Jesus had spoken unto him, and he went his way.
What did Jesus tell him to do? Go his way. Go back. So what did that tell me about that man? He believed. That man had what? That man had faith. This is a no. He said, okay. Jesus told him to go. Now think about it. This man's son was dying. He made it to Jesus. Now Jesus didn't go to him. Jesus told him just what? Go. And this man took Jesus' word. So now, do we take Jesus' word on anything? Dickens said he does. As a Christian, are we supposed to take Jesus' word? What we said is, if how many 2 or 3 gathered in what? In my name. Look around now. I said, way more than 2 or 3. So what we don't take his word for, whatever the word is. We don't have to have Jesus there. We have him in his way, but we have him in his what? Have him in his word. He had him in the flesh. We have him in the word. So we is the same just like they are. We take Jesus' word. How do you take Jesus' word? Right in your Bible. Read your Bible. Every promise that he made, he never let it. He always kept his promise. Jesus had never failed. So that's what it said. You take the word. This man took Jesus' word, and I read about it, said, he didn't go. He asked it on his way. It took him 20 miles. Some of them say it took him another day to get there. Now, what is that? That's faith. My son, I know he's dying. I left him dying. But what happened? This man, Jesus told me to go. It took him 20 miles. It's 20 miles to get there. So he couldn't make it there, but he left. He left on what? Faith. Faith what that man left on. Because Jesus told him to go. And the only good part about this, the next part I'm going to tell about, when Jesus told him to go, it's something that's going to happen. Look at Rose, that's not like him. It's something that's going to happen when he told him to go there. Not only is he going to go there, this man wanted faith, but the other good part, look at Deacon, he knows. I like when people study, but that sounds good to me. Here we go. All right? Then it says, I question, anybody got something to say about that part there? We know he on his way. Pastor, wait. All right.
I left and carried my mother back home.
Mm-hmm.
And after I left and carried my mother back home, when I got there headed out, a car started missing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told my wife, I said, I think we're going to fill up on the gas on these woods.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I paid all the way back to Effingham, 149, maybe 59.
Mm-hmm.
I was driving 75, sometimes 80. And I looked at the gas and it's going on down.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got to Effingham, I told him, he said, look, there's a little smoke coming from under the hood. I raised the hood up.
Mm-hmm.
And when I raised that hood up, my whole inside at the top of my car was full of gas.
My God.
Now I'm running 75 to 89 miles.
Lord.
And I just did that. What do you do? He said, go ahead, I'm going to this one. He said, go ahead. And my wife got on the list and said, when we get to Memphis, we're going to get children to death because all of them lives right there together. And the car goes dead every time I get up on the subway. And he said, just do like I tell you, go ahead. And I told her, I said, look, don't go like that. God got us. Don't go like that. And when we made it Memphis, every light from 3rd Street all the way through was changed before I got to it. And I come home with it. He was listening. And I said, see, we bought our stuff. And when God said he got it, he got it.
Who did it? God did it. God did it. What? Because he had what? He had faith. If God said go, what do? Go. When we step out on God's word, whatever God tells you to do, you need to do. But what our problem, we want to backstep God. If God tells you to go, go ahead. You don't wait. When you get to wait, then you short step with God. Because God gets the glory when you do what he say do. Look what he had right here. We got all kind of testimony how God is good to us. How God do things for us that nobody can do. Now, with that gas out there, that car should explode. But who had it? God. Because what God tells us to do, what? Go ahead. The thing about that, you need to live so God can use you. And so God can tell you what to do and protect you. If you want God, he the shepherd and you the sheep. What does that mean? That he's going to protect you. What happened right here? He protected all the way with that. You know, that's unreal to have something like that there. But it happened. I told you all, yeah, when we had that storm, that tree turned around, look, could hit our house, the tree fell a different way from the house. That tree was supposed to be not right on our house. But who had that tree? God. So all you got to do is live the way God tells you to live. You know, Deacon Moore had a sign. People said, oh, I can't bear this burden. Right? But what Deacon Moore always said, it's not for you to bear, it's for him. God the bearer. When it gets too heavy for you, who is the burden bearer? Just that's what it is. So we got to keep all that in mind. You know, we want to be God, but you're not God. God is God itself. You can't be God. That's good for that, deacon. And then here's the question. The question says, what do you think? Why do desperate situations often cause a lapse in faith? Do believers today require signs and wonders to acknowledge Jesus' power? Why? When you get in desperate, you forget about God. Some people get in desperate. They do things they shouldn't do. What do? Anything against God's will because what? I am desperate. This man in this church is talking about. He was desperate, but he didn't move. So when you get desperate, some people forget about God. Oh, that's okay. I'm going to do this on my own. What can you do on your own? Did you wake yourself up this morning? No. Did you walk in that church door? You can't do nothing on your own. But when you put God what? First, then that's when the own kicks in, and God gives the glory when you do what he says. That's what we got to remember. We want to do and not let God do. Let God do what he's going to be doing. Then it says, do believers require signs today? They require signs. Be for real, they require signs. Just like I told you. Some of these people that go to church all the time, but they got to look at their horoscope. So when you look at your horoscope, what you doing? You're going against the word because you're looking for a what? You're looking for a sign. I'm not going to do it until I read my horoscope. That's my sign. Horoscope. Who is the sign? God. If you got God, you don't need a sign. The sign came down and died for us. That's the sign right there. Everything else come under that. So why do you need to show me a sign? Before I go to work, I got to see a sign. Before I get up in the morning, I need to see a sign. It didn't say that. The sign you need to see is just what? Trust and believe that God can do everything that he said. It's that he's the same today, yesterday, tomorrow. He hadn't changed. So if God hadn't changed, who do the change? We do. Why do we change? Because we're not strong enough in God's word. When you begin to get in God's word and put him first, like the deacon did come out with that, put God first, he can work it out. He may not work it out on your time, but you got to know your time is not God's time. Because when God's time is nothing like our time. What is it?
Another thing we look at when we know what God said, and we don't want to go back to God, we know that we don't turn it down. But a disobedient child with your parents, that the parents tell you to do something, and you don't do it. If they got another child, they tell them to, if they don't do it, then father and mother, anytime they get ready for the other symptom, they gonna ask. You gonna ask for it again. They give it to you. A disobedient.
That's kind of like what we talk about in our Bible class. You know, sure, we're not getting exactly preaching, but that's what he's talking about right there. Disobedience. Who are some people disobedient? You're disobedient to God. You're disobedient to God. You say you're not, yes, you are. If you're not doing what God asked you to do, that's being disobedient to him. So, in order to be a child of God, you need to do what God said do. The head thing that come out, I'm in the flesh. Yeah, you're in the flesh. But being in the flesh is no excuse to do wrong. God don't give you an excuse to do wrong. You remember they talked about that? Because I'm in the flesh, I do this thing here. No excuse. God don't give excuses. You have to put them excuses away and get into God's word. And then the next one say, since we got our desperate hope, now we can confirm the faith. This is all about faith. Isn't that something? Everything we talking about faith. That man, he was desperate. He left his son. Son died. But then when Jesus told him to go, what did he do? He went. He didn't question. Think about it. Your son died, and Jesus told me to go, but I want Jesus to go with me. But Jesus not going with me. I want you to go. And Jesus said, go, and he did. Read them. What we got on 51, 52?
And as he was now going down, his servants met him and told him, saying, thy son liveth. Then inquired he of them the hour when he began to amend. And they said unto him, yesterday at the 7th hour the fever left him.
He left. Rose laughing. He left on his way. And they told me that he didn't make it, that he spent a night on his way because the time he left. But then on his way there, he met his servant came to him. And servant told him what had happened. His son lived. Now here's the question. My son lived. He was dying when I got there. Jesus didn't get there. My son lived. Then the question said, what time did it happen? He won't know the hour. When the son. So what's coming to this man's mind now? What began to run in this man's mind? It was Jesus. He was healed at the time Jesus told him to go. So that's the question he asked him. What time was it? It said the 7 hour, some says 1 o'clock that time. He was healed at that time. The man began to think about that. Now, wait a minute. My son is healed. This Jesus told me to go. I want to know what time did he get healed. And his servant told him what time he got healed. So the man gets that Jesus is a real man. How do you know he's a real man? He wasn't even there. He wasn't there, but what did that Jesus do? He spoke the word. Did he tell him? So what tells me that Jesus is an omnipresent brother God? What does that mean? He is everywhere at the same time. He is in Clarksville as well as he's in Wales. Isn't that something? He is in Mississippi as well as in Chicago. Isn't that something? Who is that? That's Jesus. So what happened? He don't have to go there. He didn't have to go there. All he had to do was what? Word. But in speaking that word, what you got to have? Faith. That's the word. The man had to have faith. Because all Jesus did was spoke the word. What they said before, they wanted some what? Sign? Show me a sign. And Jesus told that man, go. And your son is healed. What time was he healed? At 7 hours. Read what the next devil.
So the father knew that it was at the same hour in which Jesus said unto him, thy son liveth, and himself believed in his whole house. This is again the second miracle that Jesus did when he was come out of Judea into Galilee.
Look what the father said. What time was he healed? He said at that 7 hour, the man began to wonder, that's the same time Jesus told me to go. So what that tell you? The man was thinking about what time Jesus told him, and the man believed what Jesus told him. What did the man believe? That his son was already healed. But the man told him, because this man was 20 miles away from there to go there. The son was dying 20 miles away. And Jesus told him, go heal. So this man had faith in Jesus. How much faith do you have in Jesus? That's the question you need to ask yourself. How much faith do you have? If Jesus tells you to go, do you go or do you stay? What you do? Go. Because you got to have faith in who? Jesus. Put your faith in Jesus and not what? Man. This man, a noble, a high-class man, he had faith in Jesus. Because what? He heard about what Jesus could do. Not only when he heard about what Jesus could do, and Jesus told him what to do, what did he do? He obeyed and he what? He went, just like the man told him. So we got to do the same thing. We have to step out on faith. When you step out on faith and turn it over to Jesus, then God gets the glory. But what it is, we want to get the glory. We want to take it to God. Everything we do is all about us. I ain't read anything about us. It's about who? Him, as they said. Who did it this morning? Him. Who did it back there for that man? Him did it. I like the way him did it. You know what Dr. Ray sometimes say, him did it. What did him do? He healed that boy with just a word. Who did that? Him did it. Him wasn't there. Him was already everywhere you go. So anytime you got him with you, you don't have to worry about nothing. Because what? Him is in charge. How you know him is in charge? Then we read about it. The man's son was dying. Who took care of him? Him. Did the man do it? No. Him did it. But what the man did have, the man had what? Faith. We got to have faith. What is that? Faith is evidence of seeing what? And not seeing. That man didn't see his son that when he left, his son was dying. But he had faith that Jesus did what to him? He healed him. Is that some kind of faith? My son died. I may not see him when I get back. But if Jesus tells me to go, in that faith, so what am I going to do? I'm going to go. That's all about faith, people. Now here's the last question. Anybody else got something to say? The last one says, what personal evidence, in person now, have you experienced that proves that Jesus' power transcends time and space? What you have? Miss Tracy.
We get water and ride home from church. Water and cold. Tell me. We got it in the house and water, put your mask on. Then I found out we really were glad.
Really?
All right. We had a song got beat up years ago in New Orleans. I was at work, wired at home, my daughter worked with me. They called us. Never been to New Orleans in my life. Said they couldn't even find it. You know where it was. We got beat up on the railroad track. We left here. Less money, but I left here on faith. When I got there, didn't know where I was going. Never been to New Orleans. But I found it. Found him in the hospital. Told they didn't know where it was. But what do we have? I had faith that God was going to provide. And showed up, He provided. When you have faith in God, let everything else go. Just put your faith in Him. Because you have to step out on faith. And when you step out on faith, God already got your back. He got your front. He got your side. He got everything you need when you step out on what? Faith. What do you need? Just a little faith. I know some of y'all have faith. You probably had to go no good job, and God told you to move. What did you do? You moved. When you move, you got a better job. Because what did you left on? You left on faith. I would stay right there, but I don't like to get another job. If God said, go, what do you do? Go. What do we do? We want to second guess God. This thing is all about having a little faith. Just a little faith in God. We have no faith in God. Now, with that being said, I believe I got something this morning. Really, do we have it? Now, I went all the way down I-55 to bring these folks in. Then come on around to make it clear to you all. Since I talk about faith, I want you out here somebody else tell you about faith. And I went all the way down I-55 to get these folks. I brought them in. They coming in. Didn't he create the heaven and earth?
Yes.
Who said it?
God.
Didn't that song tell?
Yes.
I went out without kin, bring them back to let you all know. Since I didn't make it clear enough, they made it clear enough. God